everybody, it's Casual.Boops coming at you with another video, and before we get started here, I just wanted to say, if you're new, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and then also, I have a clan for, the Boops clan exists for learning and platooning, and also just free boosters, so if that sounds interesting to you, feel free to, hit the apply button in the description below. And then also I am trying to compile a Casual Bloopers Volume 2. So if and there should be a link popping up on your screen right now for Volume 1, which has been completed, and was I thought it was funny. So anyways, if anything like that has happened to you, please send me the clip to the a link to the clip, or send me the clip itself, or send me the link to the replay. Any of that stuff, I'll send it to the email address listed in the description below. I would love to feature it. It's funny stuff, so show me what you got. So anyways, back to the topic at hand. So today we are going to do we're featuring the Object 260, the tier 10 Soviet heavy tank that is not on the tech tree, but it's a reward for the first campaign, right? So the first campaign is the Stug 4, and then the T28 HTC, and the T55A, and then finally the Object 260, with the next set being ending in the 279E. So the 260 has been in the game for quite some time, and for a long time it was actually really bad. And then Wargaming gave it some buffs, and it's actually pretty good these days. So I figured I would cover it, and I've got some good footage. But yeah, let's just jump right into the stats. And I was going to actually show you a comparison of the 277, the Object 277, the tech tree, single shot, single barrel Soviet heavy tank that compares pretty similarly to the 260. And it looks, if you just compare the things on Tanks.gg, it looks like the 260 is way better. But to be honest, this is just this illustrates some of the interesting things that have happened on Tanks.gg lately, and that they've gone. I'll just segue here real quick. So there are things about this game that are not published. Well, most of this stuff isn't published by Wargaming, which is why it's on this website. But even some things were not even published on this website, like aspects of like transmissions and things like that would make certain tanks behave differently than you would expect. And so they've gone ahead, the folks at Tanks.gg have gone ahead and fixed some of those statistics, but they don't appear in the compare feature, right? So when you look at the things like this, you get the old version, right? But if you look at the numbers in the individual tank stats, like for instance, the terrain resists look pretty similar, right? The 260 looks a little bit better. But if you go and look at the actual 277 terrain resists, they're actually, you see they crossed out. So this takes into effect the fact that it must be the transmission or whatever of the 277 makes it behave differently. So this doesn't show in the comparison here, which is unfortunate. So it's a little bit difficult to put the two side by side and compare. So I'll just have to use my personal experience with this. They are approximately the same speed. They're very similarly, similarly paced. If you have groups of 277s and groups of 260s that are all mixed together, they're all getting places about at the same time, and they're all pretty fast. So this is a quintessential standard, for competitive. Both of these two tanks are used almost interchangeably in competitive game modes, and so yeah, they're both very good. But the main differences are, both tanks get this really silly 340 millimeters of penetration heat round, which is just awesome. But that's a big thing, right? Otherwise, they have the 260 hits a little bit less hard, 440 as opposed to 490. But to compensate for that, you get slightly higher DPM, and then also slightly better gun handling. You notice this, but at the same time, it feels better to hit for 490 than it is for 440. So it's comparable, right? I know some folks that just hate the gun on their 260, and you'll see some frustrating aspects of this, but overall the gun handling is not too bad. For a tank that is as fast as these tanks are, the turret traverse bloom being what it is means it's gonna be fairly well behaved for the most part. And then we talked about the mobility. This is one of those things you really got to do your homework on Tanks.gg, even on Tanks.gg, because this would make it look like the 260 is way faster, but it isn't. I promise you that the two tanks are very similarly paced. And then armor, they're a little weird, right? So it's the 277 just turn into a bit of a comparison. The 277 has this weird kind of boat-shaped hull. It's got the little beak kind of thing, and I think that that's me personally. This is me speaking about my personal opinion. It seems that I get a lot of troll bounces off of the things because there's all these weird little angles, and if someone is wiggling around and doing the things and you can't get a clean shot of the lower plate, this weird kind of angly hull has provided me some weird bounces, but it's also not that thick. It's well angled compared to, say, the 260, which is a pike nose, which is very similar to an IS-7, except the IS-7's armor the raw armor plating is thicker. So I didn't compare the two because the IS-7 is substantially slower and substantially more well armored and so on. So I felt that the 260 more closely compared to the 277, but you could make the argument that, you know, you could it's worth comparing the IS-7 as well. But anyways, it's a pike nose, and so you got your lower plate here, and then if you angle or something like that, then you're showing somebody your flattened out pike nose, and so you really have to be careful about how you use the armor on the 260. It can, generally speaking, I think they're similar, right? And it's going to depend on player preference and player skill to get you. I mean, this is just because of the angles, right? To get you bounces. But if you're hull down, if you're using armor effectively, then the both tanks can have effective armor. I think the general consensus is that the turret of both of them is pretty solid, especially now since they've been buffed. But anyways, suffice to say that the 277 hits a little harder. Anyways, they're very comparable tanks is what I'm trying to get at. So if you don't have a 260 and you're like, wow, this is lame, like this tank is so much better than the 277, it really isn't. Like they're similar. It's like you know, Coke and Diet Coke, whatever. But they're both good. So if you don't have a 277, go get one. If you don't have a 260, go get one. But yeah, I mean, the gist, they're just faster, and in a lot of ways, these tanks are faster than a lot of medium tanks, which is crazy. That's why they're used in competitive, or at least they were before the chieftain existed. But like these things can do 55 and 60, and that's faster than an STB. You know, like these tanks are not slow. Especially given the armor that they have. So, you know, it's pretty good stuff. You got 6 degrees of gun depression, the standard 4-man crew, 400 meters of base view range, because of course you do. There's a lot to like here, right? And so generally I think the idea is to maximize the gun handling. You know, you get your V-stab to make it so that it's just god tier awesome. This is, as I understand it, this is the standard accepted loadout for a 260. You don't really need, if you got a good crew, you don't need optics. You don't really need that because you shouldn't be really doing the spotting yourself. But even without optics and without food, you can still get up to almost 445. So this is the good stuff. It's not very hard to make this tank behave really well. But at the same time, if you do something stupid, you will be punished for it because it's at tier 10 and because it's got that pike nose. So again, if you show somebody this, you're gonna have a bad time, right? They're gonna pen right there, and you're gonna have a bad time. So that's the stats and that's the armor, and I think we've covered the equipment. So with that in mind, let's get right into the replay. All right, so today we're gonna be watching Bloop Really Heckin', or just Bloop. He's going to be playing his 260 on Ruinberg, and it's a standard battle. I guess tier 10s, obviously, but there are also some tier 9s in the game. There's no artillery, and yeah, Bloop's going to take his 260 into the town, per the usual, because he's a heavy tank, and you'll notice that he is, I mean, he had a pretty good spawn, but he's also getting here quicker than a lot of medium tanks. Like, you got a Patton that's not keeping up, and... gun handling of the 260 is showing it's like it is good, and that one's yeah, okay, so we land one home, but you know, 440 average you get some high rolls occasionally, but you'll see in this game, like, that one looks like it hit. It's just we're working this ridge right now, or I'm sorry, this corner, because we don't want to be able to give up the firing line that if the enemy team has control of where Bloop just pinged, it really constricts our team's ability to cross this gap that Bloop is trying to work with, because you'd like to have freedom of movement and be able to flex around. And since he was just spotted here, he really has to be careful, because those guys up where he just pinged at, what is that, E9, E8, E9, Echo 8, Echo 9, could really mess him up. And so, right, he's gonna put a blind fire into the bush, and we don't know if that one hit or not. But these are the things you have to look out for. And so if the STB-1 was kind of meant, that position where the STB-1 is, was kind of meant to counter the dominance of the field. But it only, that's a hold down IS-7 Bloop, that's not going to work. But you can see if anybody cares to shoot Bloop, he's here kind of exposed, side on. So luckily he's able to get out of here. But you can see, having the ability to move around and cross this gap without crossing your fingers would be a huge advantage for flexibility and movement. And I think Bloop now sees that this is just, it's really crowded in here, and we don't really have control of the field, and we don't seem to have control of much. You know, we've got a Moushin in the very back, we got an IS-3-2 in the very back, and there's a lot of guys out of position that aren't really in good spots. And so Bloop decides to take go in the back there, where this little more conservative position that I actually like this one a little bit better, because again it's a little bit less risky. You can work this corner, work this ridge without worrying about what's going to tag you from the Echo 9 area. You just have to worry about that corner right there where Bloop is pre-aiming. So we're going to not pen Tortoise with the god tier awesome heat rounds that the 260 gets. But you can see it. If you're willing to put the gun is fairly well behaved, and if you're willing to put the time in, you're still going to get trolled occasionally, but for the most part, it does what you ask it to do. And Bloop has got this really great hull down cover, and this is kind of what the tank asks you to do. I mean, luckily, wow, RNG is still a factor in the game, no matter how good you are or what tank you're playing. And you can see by the reticle shaking. I'm a little bit surprised, to be honest, that one penned. I'd be curious to see. I think maybe Bloop got hit in the shoulder plates, right? He was angled a little bit, and that flattened out those shoulder plates on the side of the hull. That must have been. And so you can see, like, the armor is not just like, you can't just sit, because if you try, you might get penned, right? If you flatten out certain areas, it does ask you to do things. Okay. And we're looking for there's all kinds of little angles and stuff on an E5, so you got to make sure you hit it in the right spot. And Bloop goes ahead and slams it home. So we're just sitting here working this this position, because that 50B is clipped out, and you know, when he comes back, we'll deal with it. This Tortoise is just sitting here eating these shots, and there is no 50B. And so we just get to sit here and be mostly hull down, and this Moushin's shooting HE, and this is from before the HE changes, which is why there's so much damage happening. But this is pretty much, God, that one felt like it should have gone in. But like, this is pretty much best case scenario. You get to sit here and just, you're mostly protected. There's not, oh, that stings. So RNG on aiming and dispersion is really, can be frustrating no matter how good your gun is. But you can see the gun is, the reticle is small, right? The gun is fairly well behaved. Bloop is just getting very, very unlucky, right? And so we're just going to make sure that we be very careful, because the Gorilla 15 has a very punishing gun. And now we just fish for one of these cupolas. Hit it, you know, he hit that one off to the side a little bit. Kind of felt like he should have gone in, but you know, you got to do what you can. And right now, Bloop is kind of locked in combat, trying his best to make sure that we can carve out some of the map unsuccessfully, because we've definitely lost the field. And you know, a couple of our heavies in the back there, the IS-3-2 and the Moushin, have shown no indication of map awareness of any kind. So if it feels like he's got to do it all by himself, that's kind of because that's how the game has gone so far. So Bloop's going to use this little position there, shooting through the fence, not hitting the fence, because otherwise that would be absorbed by the heat rounds. But you can see the 257 is going to angle, and oh my God, so Bloop shot the 257 in the side, but he shot between the hull and the tracks. So the tracks would normally act as spaced armor and absorb the heat round. But because Bloop, you know, aimed and used the accuracy that okay, see that again? That one felt like it should have gone in. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of those times where I've heard people just hate the accuracy of the 260, and on paper, it should be great, and it looks great, but like, good lord, the amount of trolling that this gun has done to Bloop in this game is mind-blowing, right? But he's still managed to just slamming shots home. We're not done. He's not out of ammo, although he is getting fairly close, right? He's only got, what is that, 10 rounds left in an HE round, so like, this is not looking good, right? We're down, it's 6 to 10. We have 6 tanks of ours and 10 tanks of theirs. We don't really have any map control, so we'll just take the side of the C5 because he gave it to us. Why not? But like, oh, can we finish this guy off? They're getting a little reckless because I think they think the game is over, and the game is not looking great, but it's not over yet either. So this is one of those cases where I don't know where that shot went. Man, Bloop has found all the ways to just get trolled by accuracy. This is one of those cases where eventually, you know, someday if these shots land, and that's not saying that that Bloop is doing anything wrong. He's doing everything he possibly can, but like, you never know, man. Sometimes you can have rounds that go like this, and then, but sometimes, like, a couple of these shots, if they would have hit, maybe this would be a different game. It is very close, and Bloop's trying his very best. We've only got 5 rounds left, though, because, you know, Bloop's been keeping the gun hot this entire time. He's just been shooting. Side of the Yag Tiger. These guys just don't care. He's been keeping the gun hot. We got 9,000 damage and 2 kills, and what are you doing? These guys, again, they just don't care. They think this is cleanup time, and so this is why they're just kind of running in with their faces. And so Bloop is happy to take advantage of these guys just running in with their faces. But again, if you just keep your head about you, okay, so this game is definitely lost. But like, okay, so now Bloop only has 1 round and it's HE. So what do? What, I mean, what, you can't possibly. Okay. He tried to get the one out, so now we're out of ammo. This is it. I mean, that's literally, you can't even this one. Way to end it on your terms, Bloop. Get that extra 1 damage on the Maushin. But you know, what a game, and what a heroic effort by Bloop. This just goes to show, like, this game was close. Those guys ran in with their faces, and they almost threw it, right? There's a lot of 2-shot and 1-shot tanks on the enemy team, and this is a perfect example of when people say, well, the game was over, it was never gonna work. And, like, if, like, 3 of his teammates would have hit, you know, 2 shots, that would have been a different game. And if, you know, if a couple of those shots that Bloop got trolled by, I would say missed, but, like, most of his rounds look pretty good. If those had hit, this would have been a different game. So, you know, he put the team on his back and tried the best as best he could, but like, it was still close, you know. So every shot counts. I'll just say it like that. All right, so at the end of the game, Bloop ended up taking home 10,445 damage and 3 kills, 3,600 damage blocked using that hull down rubble pile to good effect, and the solid turret of the 260. That gets Bloop a high caliber, of course, and then only a first class though. Gosh, the Ace Rex for this tank must be just sky high. And you can see, you know, I'm not trying to call it anybody on the team, but like, Bloop was trying his best. I'll just say it like that. Bloop was trying his best, and you know, it's being one guy on a 15-man team makes it so that you really do need everybody on the team to do something. Otherwise, you can't do it by yourself. They don't give you the ammo to be able to do that. So, what a game, you know. And I think I've started trusting the credit earnings showed by Watt replays a little bit less, but it looks like Bloop made a profit on that one, probably partially because of personal reserves and battle payments and stuff. But you know what? It doesn't really matter. You play a game like that and you shoot a lot of heat, and not all of them went in. It doesn't really matter. You're not playing the 260 for economy. You're not playing it to make credits. So what a performance by Bloop, and thanks again for sending in the replay, man. What a performance and what a heartbreak. This is just, again, goes to show that, like, every single shot of damage counts. If those of you that are watching are like, oh, the game is rigged and we don't have as good of players, like, sometimes doing 2 or 3 shots of damage, just doing your hit points is enough to sway the tide of battle. You just never know. So give it your best shot, and sometimes those losses will turn into wins. So anyways, that's the game, and thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Okay, bye.